let's say, vibe of the meeting. So before we get going, I want to do a quick check on who is here in the room with us. Let me just find the right place. So if you can, please go to menti.com and put this code, or use your smartphone to scan the QR code. I will give you some time to do that, and Karin will also share the link in the chat. Then I will go to another screen and launch a quick poll. Where can I find that? Okay, I see that the question 1 is already should already be in progress. How can I actually, it accidentally launched the question 1. Sorry about that. I'm not exactly sure how to control this poll now. But the first question that we wanted to ask is, what type of organization do you represent? And we only have so far one answer to this question. Now it's coming. Some more answers. Wow, joining from Kuala Lumpur. Someone is saying in the chat. So, okay, now we get some more responses here. So we have most people so far from local government. Some from regional. No one from national government.
That's a pity, if I may add.
Yes, I was thinking the same. It's we haven't been maybe sending enough invitations. Something to think about for the next time. Okay, so I think if I look at the question, we have 33 answers. So I think we can go to the next question, hopefully. And that is, which country are you connected from? So we get an idea of how international this group is here today. France. Sweden. Yeah, we have some people from outside of Europe. It's nice. I keep scrolling down here. Quite a few from France, Czech Republic, Germany, and Kenya. So yeah, of course, we have our colleagues in Nairobi. Okay, and the final question that I think some had already answered is, how familiar are you with the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Okay, very good. That shows that we have a growing level, I would say, of awareness on this topic. And most people feel like they have a good level of knowledge. I think that's perfect for our webinar today. And hopefully the newbie will learn a lot of things as well. Okay. So now we know a little bit on who's in the room. Now I'm going to tell you quickly about our network so that you understand who is the convener and what are we trying to do here. Okay. Can you see my screen? My computer is a little bit slow.
We can.
Great.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So this is our network. It's a network that is funded by the URBACT program, and that will started in June last year and will run until the end of next year. You can see the partner cities here. I already mentioned that Espoo in Finland is the lead partner city leading this network, and we have 9 network partners in total. As you can see on the map, we have all corners of Europe represented, and we also have different sizes of cities, so from around 40,000 inhabitants to over 400,000. So we think that we have a good diversity of experiences to share. And you will hear from Braga, Portugal today, and Jablonec, Czech Republic, and Agios Dimitrios in a moment. So why did we launch this work and what are we trying to do? So what we really want to focus on is that we feel like when it comes to addressing sustainable development by cities, we need to move from a top-down approach to a dialogue-driven approach. Cities are urged to set very ambitious goals, as many of you, I think, know well because you are from local government, for climate and biodiversity, but we also have to manage social issues and social and economic sustainability. So there are many demands on cities to act in this complex landscape that we are living in. And we think that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a great fit for cities, both to measure present state and to build future action and governance to manage the sustainable development. However, the urgency is very well understood. We see multiple crises unfolding. We have climate change to deal with, and we have many pressing priorities. But we know that on a theoretical level, but we also need this to translate into the operational level reality of our city. And this is what we are focusing on in this network. We are focusing on how do we do this? And we call that sustainability governance. And here we are focusing on 4 main lines that say that, on the one hand, using the SDGs as a framework to guide us, because we think that it's an excellent framework to make sure that we work with holistic sustainability. Those 17 goals are very all-encompassing. So it's a good way for us to make sure that we design the policies in a way that are holistic. We also want to see how cities can work better with local partners and communities in this work, and how we can support city organizations, including city government, but also the civil servants, to make sustainable development part of the everyday job and mindset of the people working in the organization. And of course, we want to contribute to improve the coordination and collaboration across government levels. We already noted that we didn't have any national government here today, which is a pity, but we have people from EU institutions and the UN, and also some regional government levels. So this is already positive. And in our journey, very practically, you can see here that we started last year with a baseline study to explore where all these 9 partner cities are currently doing along those 4 lines of action, let's say. We are producing quarterly reports. Karin maybe can share some of the links to these materials in the chat. And we are meeting 6 times over those 2.5 years, and we will have one final network event where we exchange practices, we help each other to think about how to solve different challenges in the city. Every city in the network will have a local action plan on how to strengthen governance beyond this project period and also during, of course. And we are organizing these public webinars and trying to participate in other international events and that's where we want to invite you to kind of connect with our network and follow our work, because we are very keen to collaborate. And we will have a final product in the end, which is not going to be another guidebook for cities. But actually what we have started to understand is that we need to, first of all, understand our city stories. So what is the story behind this work? Sometimes the governance term and everything that we try to do can seem very abstract and not enough concrete for people both in the organization, in the local community. So we are very much focusing now on trying to understand, and we like this quote from the mayor of Braga, Ricardo Rio, that SDGs are way to quality of life. So our message is that if we are fulfilling the goals, we are creating conditions for people to live happier and better quality of life in the city. And we are working with Dr. Barbara Karanian from Stanford University, who has a long time expert on storytelling. And when we met in Valencia in March this year with our network, she told us that to motivate others, that we first have to understand our own motivation. And that's why we are now going through a journey that we try to help everyone in our network to learn how to use stories to actually convey what it is that we want to achieve with sustainability governance. Like I mentioned, we are launching a series of public events. This is being the first one. We have a mayor level meeting in Mannheim coming up in June, where we will have a roundtable discussion that we will also stream online. So in the follow-up to this webinar, if you are interested in really following our work closely, we can share information about that. And we will post on our LinkedIn page any other activities that are coming up, and of course on our website as well. So these are the 2 main channels to follow our work. So with that introduction, you know the context of why we are convening this kind of webinars. And so now enough from our side, and we were very happy then to be able to invite UN Habitat, who, let's say, is at the very origin of all of this that we are doing, because the UN Sustainable Development Goals originate from the UN, and UN Habitat is the organization that is responsible for supporting urban sustainable development. So I'm very pleased to introduce Martino Miraglia, who is coordinator of UN Habitat's SDG localization and local government work, and is also going to talk about their flagship project on SDG cities that you are consolidating a bit the work that UN Habitat is doing at the moment. So really thank you for both collaborating with us in preparing the webinar and now to give us this global perspective of why cities and how cities can use the SDGs strategically.
Thanks a lot, Stina. I hope that you can hear me well.
Yes.
Yes, super. And I mean, I've been given 15 minutes, and I will take one to say congratulations to you all. It's really a great initiative, and happy to see some familiar faces, some new faces in the meeting, and congratulations indeed to the coordinators of this new initiative network, and also for the name that you have chosen, Cities for Sustainability Governance, which I think could not be better fit for what I think you are trying to achieve and for what the SDGs stand for. I think my background is flipped. but I hope it's fine. For everyone, apologies, my relations with the technology, despite the few years of online meetings, is not yet best.
No, the good thing is that it's like that for everyone, so we see it well.
Fantastic. So I will just share my screen quickly, if you don't mind. I have prepared a couple of slides for your consideration, and I will try to keep it short because I think that the beauty of these meetings is the eventual discussion. So give me a second as my laptop is trying to upload. There you go. Can you all see my screen in this moment?
It's still loading.
Sorry, it's a bit slow.
Now we can see
now
it.
we can.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So let me just quickly start by saying that I'm Martino Miraglia, SDG Localization Local Governments Team Coordinator. The team also coordinates the SDG Cities Flagship, as Stina was mentioning, which is one of the 5 flagships of UN Habitat that really aims at boosting and supporting city partners in their efforts on localizing the SDGs, but also mainstreaming SDG localization within UN Habitat itself. So our goal as part of the team is to familiarize colleagues to the meaning, to the process of SDG localization, and facilitate then connection with the other parts of the house. As Stina was mentioning, UN Habitat deals with urbanization and human settlements, and it holds kind of if you want, is the UN operational hub for also basic services. We have experts dealing with housing, with water, with planning, with public services, which at the end of the day, specifically talking with the UN so governments colleagues, basic services is what provides also the change for our communities. UN Habitat priorities are spread across 3 key work streams: urban recovery, climate change, housing, and SDG localization, which was consolidated by I would say, politically and globally, also through the endorsement of the first ever resolution on localizing the SDGs, approved by member states during the UN Habitat Assembly last June 2023. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the UNEA, which is the meetings of member states with regards to environment, plastic, and everything that our colleagues, neighbors of UN Environment Program are dealing with. The UN Habitat Assembly is exactly the same, but on local and urban development. So it gathers member states talking about local level development. In this framework, well, I will just say that the team is, sorry, my slides. The team will coordinate the corporate work on SDG localization, the engagement politically with the local government's constituency, and at this point managing a global portfolio that goes beyond 20 countries. I've to quickly also mention the approach. As you can see, I think that there is no way that localization can be taken independently by the engagement with the local government's constituency that really carries the priorities politically and technically of the local governments worldwide. We provide our support through the SDG Cities Flagship that also integrates component of multi-level governance and voluntary local reviews. We have been talking about the presence of member states. All of these flows into and is reported against the work plan of the Local 2030 Coalition that you might also be familiar with. The coalition is one of those milestones that I would say the international community, also thanks to the work of cities and local governments, has achieved in creating the UN-wide initiative on localizing the SDGs. It's not a UN Habitat initiative. It's not a UNDP initiative. It's the Secretary General's called and led initiative on advancing SDG localization through the system of the UN. some of you might have not been necessarily familiar with the SDGs a few years ago. But I just wanted to put this kind of timeline together because the discussions around localization started some years back in 2014, and this is important to understand where we are right now. In 2014, UN Habitat, UNDP, and UCLG led the dialogues on localizing the what was called the post-2015 agenda. Feel a bit old talking about it. This was also this contributed also to the adoption of SDG 11 that put sustainable cities and communities at the center of the agenda. Now, from 2015, with the approval of SDG 11, what has happened? It has happened that a quantity of local governments, of cities, of local administrations, with the support, sometimes, not always, of their national counterparts, of international organizations and community, have really led the innovation and the practices with regards to the implementation of the SDGs. And implementing the SDGs, what does it mean? It means transforming the goals and the targets into concrete impact for our local communities. And this is what cities and local governments worldwide have done. Globally speaking, these 2023, 2024 have been absolutely critical years because these innovations and work of cities and local governments has been acknowledged and put on paper, finally, within the major political declarations, also within the UN. The SDG Summit outcome document that took place in 2023 recognizes the value of local action. The Spanish EU presidency has put localization at the center of its outcome document last year. The resolution on localizing the SDGs we have already mentioned. The first ever was approved during the UN Habitat Assembly last June 2023, and two mechanisms have launched. We have mentioned the coalition, the UN-wide initiative on localizing, and the Secretary General has created an advisory group of local regional governments to be directly advised on issues concerning local and regional governments so that it can put them at the center of political and policy processes of the UN itself. And I was working on those dialogues in 2014. Between the dialogues in 2014 and an advisory group of local and regional governments directly attached to the Secretary General, I think that we should congrats ourselves, because it's something completely transformative that I really hope we can bring also within the context of the next agenda after 2030. I will not take too much time talking about the transitions. The member states and the UN have found and identified some key transitions that the world should focus to advance the localization, advance the implementation of the SDGs, energy, food security, education, climate change, 6 of them. What is interesting for this discussion today is that each of these transitions, which are thematic topics of work, can and is acknowledged that can only be achieved if we localize their implementation, if we bring implementation down to the local level. Now, I will take just 2 minutes of thinking, presenting one thing that I think for us it's quite critical. We have been talking at this point for years about the challenges, about the gaps, about what is out there, the bottlenecks that are actually impeding local governments or cities to advance in their sustainable path. It is extremely difficult to identify the key ones because there are many. It's like an incredible number, and we can go up to the details talking about tomorrow. But in the conceptualization within the UN and within UN Habitat, we were thinking we have kind of tried to focus on 3 layers of gaps. The data one, which I know everyone is facing. How am I able to measure progress, but also to adapt my policies based on evidence if I don't have data available to do so? And this is valid as much as for Nepal's cities, as much as for Finnish cities. And this is absolutely clear. And information is essential for us to drive change. The second one is the level of decision making. it is again essential that our decision making is taken in a harmonized way, where policies, plans, and initiatives are aligned across the three levels. This doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen from the top to down, where plans or strategies are crafted globally or nationally. It doesn't happen sometimes where local governments are the ones crafting their own strategies. Sometimes these are not reflective of taking into consideration the national frameworks. Finally, implementation. Local governments and cities have, at least again, to be extremely simplistic, I think that we could think into two main gaps when it comes to implementation: the capacities. And colleagues, here I'm talking about the world. And when you're here in Kenya and you see that the local government is made out of three representatives employee, it's extremely difficult to think about how those representatives and, like, you know, three simple employees can drive development for a whole territory. So capacity is human and technical at the core of what could be a gap for the SDGs. The second level is financing. It is more or less estimated that local governments, specifically in most developing in least developed countries, only leverage the 5 to 20% of their own resource revenue, and all the rest comes for external financing, whether from the national government or from international donors. It's extremely complicated because we create external dependency, and that our finance frameworks are not responsive to what actually community really needs. Now, to address these challenges, we need to really understand urban science. We need to understand how our cities work, how they functions, how they functions, and which are their main functions, from infrastructure to protection of environmental and biodiversity. The new urban agenda has identified 5 key drivers of transformation at the city level: the national urban policies, urban legislation, urban planning and designing, and local economy, something that you can relate to the gaps that we have identified before. Fantastic. Now, we know that there are multi-scale gaps. We know what are the functions of a cities and how cities and what makes city functions. And that's where SDG localization comes in place. I think that SDG localization, I would like really to pass this message, is about producing, is about changing and transforming our governance and development systems. The SDGs, and here you have some cities that have embraced the development agenda, are a roadmap for cities to change how the development path based on a transformative governance. And this is why I like the Cities for Sustainability Governance name, because governance is at the center of everything that we do produce, and is at the center of the SDG localization process. SDG localization, as much as we will always need, is not easy. National governments within the workshops and the debate that we have, localization is also about multi-level governance. And it's not only about what cities alone can do, but it's about what the transformative city, is about the transformative path of a city integrated within a larger framework of change. Now, this is more or less how, as UN Habitat, we look into SDG localization. We really think that SDG localization is anchored on those 3 layers: the whole of government, the whole of society, and the global dimension of the SDGs. For what? To improve the frameworks and the capacities to deliver transformative change for local communities. What you have seen at the top is more or less how the SDG Cities Flagship program that I was talking at the beginning supports cities. We do support their data processes, strengthen data environment. We do create kind of connections and facilitate policy coherence for informed and coherent decision making. And we do support the strengthening of implementing capacities, whether we are talking about human technical resources or finance framework to reorient financing towards impact at the local level. All of this alone, colleagues, and you know better than I do, all of this alone, we can achieve change up to here. We need to bring the bar up, and to bring the bar up, we need to make sure that the change and the localization of the SDGs is anchored on multi-level governance, on coherence or of sharing of resources, on dialogue in between the levels, the spheres of government, but is also anchored into a process of participation and inclusion. How can we produce governance and how we can produce a change that is actually responsive to the needs of our communities if we don't involve them, if we don't talk to our academia, if we don't build on research on the academia, if we don't involve the small and medium enterprises that are active into our territories. And in case of developing countries where development partners are present, how can we support localization if the interventions of our developing partners are not oriented towards those priorities? So I now will close by just highlighting how cities across I will not read through this, I know that my time is up, there are cities across the globe that are really going through all of these processes. I will share these slides, please. And we have contacts in all of these cities. I would love for this network and for this initiative to learn more eventually also from all of these. And here you can see also for example, the partnership in Monza and Tampere that we, as UN Habitat, we had the chance also to support. And another example, closing by saying, all of this, I hope you will be able, and we will be able to bring it to the World Urban Forum. It's an event that will take place in Cairo in November from the 4th to the 8th. The key topic of the World Urban Forum is local action and localization. So everything that is now being discussed is something that I would personally take care, I would say cherish and bring into the discussions of World Urban Forum, but I would strongly invite you to be there, as all of the topics will really need your insights for the discussion. But over to you, Tina, and I will remain available for any further question. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Martino, for this great and inspirational, motivational presentation. We have 2 questions that have come into the chat. The first one I feel is almost like a comment from Stefan Pian. So I would almost like to invite you, if you're okay with that, to maybe open your microphone. And if you want to share your comment, and maybe if you have a concrete question for Martino, to share it also with him. Thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm from Singapore, Kuala Lumpur now, but I'm French. So yes, I'm involved in sustainable urban development and smart cities, data governance also, particularly in Asia. And I have the feeling that also in Europe, we have a lot of communication on SDGs, but finally nothing has changed. It's just what cities are already doing, and they put this in the SDG box. But finally, there is no governance transformation. There is no integrated public policies, and they don't move. So, okay, we can find a few best practices, but particularly in France, it's very rare also to talk about SDGs. So I'm a little bit worried about that. And yes, so my questions are, so commitment. Now you are involved in a European project, but how to have this impact? I have the feeling that particularly in Malaysia, they are more involved because you have all the urban planners involved. It's not the case. I don't know who is exactly involved in Europe. Urban planners, not exactly. They don't have the same power. So I have a lot of questions about what's happening in Europe. And I know, of course, we have some best practices about role of government in Catalonia, in Spain. Spain was also quite well advanced. There is also in Basque Country, local 2030. So I want to know also what they are doing now. So I have a lot of questions about what's happening in Europe. And also I'm on smart cities. So if we don't have, of course, the data, but if we don't have the tools to support the integrated public policies, also nothing can happen. So I'm thinking also about the tools to support these kind of new policies and new governance.
Thank you, Stefan. So I will leave if Martino has something to comment on this, and then I would ask Ville to take a note for the closing words for this. And I think also we have our 3 city testimonials. So what you said, like a snapshot of what is happening in Europe, you will get a little bit through that, and then we can come back to that in the final part. But Martino, I will leave the floor to you if you have a comment on that. Thank you very much for this valuable comment.
Thanks a lot, Stefan and Stina. I don't have a comment. I mean, I have a comment and I say, yes, Stefan, you are absolutely right. Sometimes the tick in the box of SDGs is the way forward for visibility, for maybe access project funding. But I already think that that's a bit of a success, because if local governments and cities worldwide eventually, we are already thinking of mapping their activities against sustainable processes, against the SDGs, it's already a step forward in the thinking, in the way that certain activities or certain policies will are taking shape. Somewhere this will lead nowhere. Somewhere it will lead to a little bit of change. And I think that in my experience, we always need to measure expectation and take a modular approach. The change is a first step, second step, and then it goes to those transformative change that we want to see in governance. So the fact that local governments are just mapping what they already do against the SDGs, yes, they are taking a box, but they are starting a process of reflection. And I've seen these actually leading to somewhere. One, for me, there are 2 things that absolutely are needed for boosting this process. The first one is political will. I'm pretty sure that, and also the mayoral meeting that this network is activating in Mannheim, that's an example of it. You need to have visionary and inspired leaders that see the added value of working with the SDGs, and you have to have at the same time the technical capacity within your municipality, within your administration to take that forward. So for us to make sure that the SDGs do not stay as tick in a box, but bring into the next level, we need to work with our mayors, we need to work with our governors, with our leadership, and at the same time build the capacity internally of our technical people. Over to you.
Absolutely, thank you very much. And I think this is exactly what we are working on in Cities for Sustainability Governance, and keep reinforcing the idea that we can start with the present state analysis and do this mapping like you were talking about, but it's this only the first step. If this is the only thing we're doing, we're not getting anywhere. We need to use that for planning ahead, for transforming our governance. That is very much in our focus. There was a question also from Pancho. It's quite practical on illustrating collaboration between the UN Habitats programs and the European cohesion policy. I don't know, Pancho, if you want to make a comment on your question further, but I think also Martino might be able to answer this quickly and also complement maybe in the chat.
Absolutely, and I will just say that, sorry, please.
No, I don't know if Pancho wants to add anything on his question here, maybe.
Greetings, all of you. My interest in that topic is that greetings from Bulgaria, and the topic is quite new for the whole European region where we are located, and that's why it's easier for us to communicate and to provide those strategies and policies through such examples, such practical methods. That's why I'm asking that question, and I'm interested to know more about it.
Thank you.
And just I will be extremely brief, Stina, so that other speakers will have the time. Just to say that first and foremost, the EU cohesion policy, the UN doesn't necessarily work in Europe because we are mandated to support countries that are in transition or that or not Western, let's put it like this, developed countries. So our focus in Europe and our support is focused on the eastern side, on the eastern bloc of the European Union, and that's where the cooperation and the, let's say, collaboration with the EU cohesion policy and its mechanism happens on a programmatic level. I think that there is no, I would say, concrete example of collaboration in between the UN Habitat SDG localization program and the EU cohesion policy, simply because we keep this on, the UN, when it intervenes, it respects the EU and contributes to the EU cohesion policy. Because we understand that we know that territories within the European Union, first and foremost, are following those principles, which are the same as the UN. So every localization program of the UN and UN Habitat contributing to cohesion and, let's say, alleviating the disparities in between in countries and between countries and its territories fits into the work of the EU on cohesion policy. We don't have an established formal collaboration, but we work with the same cities, respecting and pushing and promoting the principles of the EU cohesion policy. But I can look a bit further into more practical example if needed, with more than pleasure.
Thank you. And I wanted to say, almost say not yet, but this webinar, of course, is we are connecting our network. We have the URBACT Secretariat here. You will hear from Margit Tuennemann, who is with us a bit later, on what URBACT has done in the past and is continuing to do. So building bridges, and maybe this could lead to something more formalized. We can explore this, in the future in terms of our small world. But now, without further ado, because we are quite behind in the schedule, but I think this is important to pause and take these comments along the way. We're now moving into the 3 city testimonials. We have Hélder Costa with us here today from the Presidential Support Office at the Braga City Council, Portugal. And we also have 2 deputy mayors, one from Agios Dimitrios, Vice Mayor for Digital Transformation, Vasilis, Zacharias. Welcome. And Vice Mayor of Jablonec nad Nisou in Czech Republic, Lenka, Opočenská.
Hello.
So actually we are going to start, I think it's a good transition. We are going to start with the perspective of Braga. Some of you might know the work already. We had already cited the mayor, but it's really an example of a city that has worked for many years on this topic and are dealing with many of these aspects that Martino was showing: multi-level, work with academia, work with the community. So I hand over to you, Hélder, to tell us about your journey on going beyond using only the SDGs as a ticking box and mapping exercise, like we discussed. The floor is yours. Oh, I actually should share your presentation.
Yeah, I would ask you if you share the. I can share if you want.
It's okay for me. I
Okay.
have it. This you can see, but I wanted to make the presentation mode. So, no, yeah, sorry, it's from the end.
Yeah. So thank you, Stina. Thank you for organize with Ville and of course our team of Cities for Sustainability Governance, the project of URBACT, for share the Braga initiative and what we are doing in related to SDG and what is our opinion related to this agenda that we are very, very, very strong work on this. Start with our mayor, because Ricardo Rio is a rapporteur for Sustainable Development Goals at the European level, related to Committee of the Regions, and of course they are leading this agenda through a national way and European way. So, Stina, you can pass the next slide. So for those who don't know Braga, Braga is the I think I can say the third most relevant city in Portugal after Porto and Lisbon. We are known as a very strong economic development work in Braga. Braga have more or less 200,000 people that are the only city in Portugal that increased population in 10 years, and this is a fact that show the work of the economical development, because we create more than 500 jobs per year, and we are now in top 10 cities in the Peninsula Iberian related to the economic development. However, although the mayor and the municipality has a great job on this, the mayor has to develop a complementary policy and complement this type of economic development with a sustainable development. So in the last five years, this work show a great results on that. One of the results that came out of this sustainability policy is that Braga was one of 10 cities in the world to be certified by UN Habitat in SDG cities. With silver, we are now trying to achieve the gold. I think in the last of this semester we can achieve this. Braga was the first city in Portugal to submit the VLR in the United Nations. Now I think there are six cities in Portugal: Matosinhos, Mafra, Cascais also, but yeah, a few ones. And the third number that I would like to show you is that in Braga we are more or less with 70% of achievement to the SDG and Agenda 2030 by a study with the University Catalan Portuguese that show that Braga is one of the cities in Portugal with more advanced in the concretization of the Agenda 2030. Next slide, please, Stina. So this is our track of each SDG related to this study. And of course, we can see here by SDG. Next slide. Yeah. We have the tracking that I show you in the previous slide, but we have also another project that is perfectly online. This is ODS Local that you can see in real time the data of Braga and the localization of SDGs. I say a lot of times SDGs, so imagine my effort right now. Next slide, please, Stina. And for example, we can see the SDG 11 and tracking the trend of Portugal, compared municipalities related to Braga and in each SDG. The next, please, Stina. So this is our. The question is why we choose the SDGs, and I remember of this picture because we work on the municipality that we want to create more quality of life for our citizens, but we don't know how we create that or what the definition. Of course, everyone wants to work in sustainability, but what is the definition of sustainability for the cities in the world? How we compare with self? So if you imagine the municipality as a car, everyone is working, everyone is very busy, but a lot of people doesn't know or doesn't have the best wheels to do that. And this is why we choose the SDG to create the perfect wheels. And for that, we create a new model for sustainable development that we will show in the next slide. Thank you, Stina. This is our model. This is the wheels, the round wheels that we put in our municipality. We start in the community engagement with the approach to see the opinion of our community, and 4 principles for constitute the sustainable report, or VLR, because we integrate the VLR in our sustainable report. We are now in the 2nd edition. The next month we will show the 2nd edition of our VLR. But to say that megatrends, networks, strategy plans, and priorities are the 4 pillars of our VLR, and of course the sustainable strategy of Braga that we launched in the last January with 10 measures that complete this kind of round wheels that we put in our strategy and our municipality, our organization. Next slide, please, Stina. So just to show that our process of community engagement, that I want to highlight this engagement metrics because it's very useful. It's a tool, a powerful tool. That is more or less we ask to our citizens what is the topics that are more relevant, integrated or framed in the Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, sorry, because I noticed that are in Portugal, the words that are in Portuguese. But for example, the most relevant topic is mobility, habitation, housing, water management, sustainable development, urbanism. And we can see, for example, to explain a little bit of these metrics, in the horizontal line or axis, there are expectations about these topics related to the municipal management, and in the vertical axis, the expectation of citizens. So the first thing that we can conclude here is that there are a great alignment, what is the expectation of the municipality and what is the expectation about the citizens. So we can see and we can work better each field of these topics that almost citizens and the community think they are relevant. And of course, we can do more and do less related to this. The second conclusion that I want to highlight here, sorry, Stina, is that the community or the citizens look to the city in a different way that looked in the 10 years ago. Because imagine how many topics are now relevant in the municipality. It can mean that the citizens have a different preoccupation of the city and of the space than 10 years ago. That, for example, if we did this kind of tool 10 years ago in Braga, sustainable economic development will be the great topic, or jobs, or new jobs, or financing, etc. So in this time, imagine the habitation or housing and water management and space, green space, is one of the most relevant topics. So the citizens look to the city in the sustainable way, not in economic or social or another topic, but in a lot of topics that we are working. Next, Tina. And to finalize this last slide, that what's the challenge that we are facing now, and what problems or what the barriers that we found. There are a lot of topics, mobility, housing, as I mentioned, and for that we are applying, five ways: the policies, governance, regulations, our capacity. The municipality of Braga has 2,000 workers, but we have the capacity to fulfill the expectation of the citizens with these workers, with our knowledge, etc. Technologies, of course, democracy and social innovation. What kinds of the process of democratic process that we have? It's enough for fulfill these expectations, and of course financing and economic model. So with this scheme, we conclude 5 challenges that we are facing now. The first one is a regulatory models that doesn't allow to deliver the solutions. We are trying to change this kind of regulations. For example, for the procurement, for the space of the municipality, urbanisms, etc., taxes. This is one of these challenges that we are trying to change. Difficulty for everyone to speak the same language. If you speak with, for example, the education department, some people doesn't know what the SDGs is or doesn't know how to apply SDGs in their activities. So this is a different challenge that we have to create a common language to speak to everyone, and everyone has to know how their job can contribute to agenda more than ourselves. Isolated actions that are not enough to create broader changes. So imagine here the mobility. If we want to work with mobility, we have to link this kind of agenda with housing, with climate action, and etc. So it's very difficult to solve these complex challenges by a specific topic. The first one, scope of some critical impacts are beyond the municipal control. There are some kind of difficulty to work in a multi-level, and this network, the CSG, is perfect for that, because it's all about governance, all about how we work with our neighbor, our city neighbor, how we work with the national government or European level. There are some kinds of different approach to work on that. And the last one, this is systematic impacts are complex, multidimensional, uncertain, non-linear, and can take a long time. But I know that we need one thing, that a broad vision and consensus to everyone to can implement agenda like that Braga are trying to do this implementation and achieve 100% in 2030. So I think this is everything from our side, and I'm available to a question. So back to you, Stina.
Thank you very much. So for this overview of what Braga is doing, impressive work. I'm going to move to all the city panoramas because time is ticking, and if you have questions to Hélder, please put them in the chat and he can also answer them there. So now we are moving to 2 smaller municipalities, and we have the political leaders here with us. We're very grateful. So first I give the floor to you, Vasilis, to talk about the ambitions of the new government. We should say that you took office in the beginning of the year, right?
Sure.
So your motivation to be part of our network and what you plan to do.
Sure. Thank you for giving me the floor, Stina. I'm very happy to be here with you and sharing the experience that we're having in Agios Dimitrios. And as Stina mentioned, we are still a bit new, although as you will see, we did start. Let me slowly get started. Give me a second to share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
All right, thank you. So my name is Vasilis Zacharias. I'm the Vice Mayor of European Programs and Digital Transformation. I'm from the city of Agios Dimitrios in Greece. And to give you an interesting tip, it's actually Agios Dimitrios is the birthplace of the well-known ancient Greek philosopher Socrates. So in Agios Dimitrios, we did start our journey quite a few years ago. So we were actually the first city in Greece that we adopted the UN's Sustainability Development Goals of 2030 vision back in 2016, and only the second Greek city to proceed with the local voluntary report that was actually implemented last year in 2023, but was actually published during January this year. Unfortunately, though, although that we were the first city in Greece that we started with adopting the SDGs, this was not properly communicated, and there were not, if I may add, the proper level of engagement with the local communities, also with the national government, so as to create the needed traction to get on board and start doing more things on the SDGs. So overall, our commitment sustainability reporting is an integral part of our governance model, which at the end of the day, it helps us to enables us to monitor and communicate our progress in addressing different environmental, social, and economical challenges. For us, the SDGs offer the most practical and effective pathway to tackle different causes of violent conflict, human rights abuses, the climate change that we're all going through, environmental degradation, of course, aiming to ensure that none of our community people are being left behind and everybody is included. SDGs offer tremendous transparency, and they are a tool that helps us actually to create a shared value proposition with our stakeholders and our local communities moving forward, and together, if I may say, strategize and envision how we want our city to be in the next years and how we expect our children to grow up in the city of the future. So overall, if I may put it in a sentence, SDGs are our compass. So they are guiding us towards the future of our city where technology is a part of it, and it's harnessed to serve our community, to help us foster innovation and drive sustainable progress. In this way, by aligning our strategies with the SDGs, we do not only manage to enhance the quality of life of our citizens, but also gives us the opportunity to contribute to a world, a planet, if you like, that every individual and all communities thrive in harmony with the planet and the ecosystem that we are around. So moving forward on how we do it, and as Stina mentioned, and I also mentioned earlier before, we are still a bit early in the stages. So we did start with the URBACT program back in June as well as a city, but it was because of the elections that we had during September, October in Greece. Unfortunately, the program was not, I would say, supported by the previous administration to the extent that it was supported. So starting in January, where we took over the administration of the city, for us, URBACT is, if I may say, it's a great gift that we found in the city's books, let's say, in strategy, because it also aligns fully with our vision and how we plan to grow and progress in our city. So our goal is to utilize the URBACT program and the city's network to learn and involve our thought process and the ways of working. And coming back to Hélder's presentation, I like that I show the graphic with the wheels, the round and the rectangle, because it's a philosophy that I also have as a person, that we do not need to reinvent the wheel, and it's always good to be able to speak and discuss and align with other colleagues that have already been through this experience and try to get all the learnings, all the best practices, and this gives you a good head start in order to be able to commit and drive the results that you want to drive. So an important aspect of what we're currently doing is that we are continuing to grow and enhance the local SDG working group, bringing in different and diverse people from local community and various local organizations and groups, including academia, giving us a more diversification view and perspectives of how each different group of people or group of communities of people see the way moving forward for Agios Dimitrios in the next years. And through this local SDG working group, the end goal for us for in the next couple of months is to be able to define and document our local SDG data collection and reporting process, while in the same time, the goal is to create and foster the appropriate culture within the municipality colleagues and all the different services and departments that are being involved in the SDG collection and reporting process, and also including the local community. A way that what is really critical here is, and this is part of my role as a political elected person for Agios Dimitrios, to identify and secure all the relevant funding that can come up from different European Union programs, or the Greek government programs and financial tools that are being planned and being communicated on a timely basis. So I do spend a lot of time online trying to and talking with people to understand what is coming in the next months, trying to prepare myself and the city to be able to leverage opportunities coming in our way. Extremely important for me and for us, if I may say, is to create synergies and networks with neighboring cities, including non-governmental organizations and local groups that will also help us to address common issues and problems that we have. And most importantly, as I like to say, this is a way that we can actually make our voice stronger. We empower our reach and the way we can actually influence towards the central governments in terms of policy creation, or even creating financial tools and programs to support the SDG moving forward. For us, in the first year, if I may say, for 2024, the initial focus on SDGs is on digital transformation. And this is because, as I expect many of you have already seen, roughly around 70% of the SDGs are actually being supported or complemented by technology that we currently have that is available, and it's an excellent way to give us a good head start for the next months. Moving on to the challenges, I would say some of them were already in between the lines of what I was saying before. For me, the biggest problem in this case is it's always to overcome the existing societal and cultural barriers and to challenge the status quo. And I'm saying this very transparently because I'm from Greece. Greece is a Mediterranean country. It's a very traditional way of thinking, behaving. And it takes time for people to adopt an idea, make it their own, and start to actually live with it. And this is a big goal that also tackles with the SDGs. Especially challenging is to be able to maintain an active and energetic and engaged local working group that is fully committed towards the SDGs and our city's vision moving forward. As I mentioned before, secure the required funding. It's always a big problem. It's not easy. It takes time, and this is also coupled with I think I heard this from one of the previous speakers with how the policies are being developed, rolled out and implemented at the country level. And just to give you a bit of an idea of how things are progressing in Greece, it might take up to 2 years for a plan to be actually fully set in stone. All the processes, all the policies are being covered, that you can actually start to do the work. So it takes time, and it's a tedious exercise sometimes that it takes a lot of, that brings a lot of workload also in people working in the municipality and in the local working groups. Apparently, there are other issues that are coming into play here, like, for example, the weakness of the statistical systems and the scarcity of relevant data. And this has been a problem that the municipality in our city, we have been facing since 2016 that we started working with SDGs, that in a lot of cases, we don't have data. And in many cases, we don't have either a system to collect the data. So there are cases that we do need to go through a lot of manual effort in order to collect the data, put them in a digital format, and then be able to utilize them towards calculating our SDGs, the progress our city has made, and to be able to set up our strategy and our vision based on the SDGs for the coming months and years.
Let's go to future outlook. Sorry, I need to push a little bit on the
No worry, no worry. So for us, I think the most important part is that we execute. Actually, our pre-election program was based on the SDGs. So all the visionary items, activities that we had there, actions for our city, were already coupled. And this is our opportunity, let's say, to execute our program strategy, coupled with the SDGs. And this is a great way for us to showcase actually the progress that the city is making on a year-to-year basis, and gives us also the opportunity to come back to the drawing board, rethink, reiterate, and change our design and our planning for the next months. And the most important for me, and this is my biggest goal for the next couple of months, is how I'm going to be able to communicate and create awareness in the local community, with the end goal to gradually inspire and transform our local community to become SDG change advocates, focusing at start on the young generations, which I believe they are the key for everyone's future. Thank you, Stina. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Open for questions.
So please put your questions to Vasilis in the chat, and we go directly to our next Deputy Mayor, Lenka Opočenská, to share her perspective on the work by Jablonec.
Hello, thank you. And if you can share my presentation,
Yes.
Stina, please.
Here we go. Sure. So yes, please try to keep it brief because we are a little bit behind schedule. Sorry about that.
My name is Lenka. I'm a Deputy Mayor for Environment and Strategy. And please, next slide. Jablonec have got about 45,000 inhabitants. We are located in a developing region, and we have got very wide political coalition, which is very important if you want to implement something. And we've got about 250 staff in City Hall. Our why is, first, that our strategic plan is very, very ambitious, which means unrealistic, and no one uses it, actually. Second, that we have no sustainable governance processes in the offices, and in fact, we have got insufficient governance processes at all. We are at the beginning, actually. We have, unfortunately, no vision, no official vision of the city, which could be communicated towards the officers and people. We cannot engage young people between 15 and 30. And the last why is that we want to belong to the group of sustainable European cities. Next slide, please. How we do it? We have, it's several days, we have introduced SDGs to other politicians very decently and nicely. We have done our strategic plan revision through SDGs. We found out what we do, what we don't, gaps, and we politicians, we have to decide what we want to do, what we should do, and tell priorities. Then we have to decide where to use SDGs. Will we pair it with budget? Will we use it for communication, for building a new action plan, or everything? So this is a decision that we have to make as politicians. And we also stick sometimes the SDGs to social media posts. Next slide, please. The challenges or future outlook. We are missing relevant actual data that we can use, not only for communication, but also for decisions. Some of my colleagues think that these global goals are actually too global and they cannot see the localization. And this is my work to motivate them, persuade them, show them that every global goal has got local impact. Some goals also, we think, may sound quite absurd to Czech public, and politicians have fear of reaction. Actually, SDGs is a new concept for Jablonec, even though it was accepted in 2015. So politicians have fear of everything that's new. And the big challenge is to get officers on board and make them SDGs accepted and use it in everyday basis as something that can help them in their work. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lenka. And I have to also congratulate you and the team on all the work, because I know you list a lot of challenges here, but you have done a lot in the short period that we have had the project since the baseline this year. Like you mentioned, mapping with the SDGs, you are taking the very important steps, and we are the cheerleaders that will support you along the way. Really happy to have you among us. So again, questions for Lenka in the chat. I'm very sorry for our last speaker that we have run short of time. We have Margit Tuennemann here, from Senior Policy Officer from the URBACT Secretariat. And we wanted Margit to present a bit more on what the URBACT program is all about and what they have done on SDGs. The presentation will be uploaded on our webinar page later. So if there's a lot of information that we won't have time to go into detail today, it's a very informative presentation. So I ask you then, Margit, to just highlight some of the important elements for this audience now that you have heard the whole panorama. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Stina. I'm trying to share my screen. I hope it works now. It didn't do before. So just let me know whether it works.
Yeah, we don't see it
okay.
yet, but.
Okay. So thanks in any case to you, Stina, and the whole network for inviting me and for giving me the possibility to quickly introduce you to URBACT, the URBACT program, and to tell you a bit about what we do for localizing the SDGs. I hope you can see it by now.
We cannot see.
No?
I'm trying to close all my presentations so I can share it.
Okay. Sorry for that.
No problem. Let me see. I will hopefully get there. Here.
Stina, if you want, I can also, or is it coming now?
Yeah.
Because we can do a wrap up now and then Margit can continue.
I think it should be coming now.
Something is coming. No, it's not in presentation mode yet.
Yeah. I think I cannot put it in presentation mode. Here maybe. But let's start. You can start with the talking points.
Yes, and the next slide, Stina. Thank you. So what I just wanted to tell you, if you switch one more, exactly, what is URBACT about? We are a European territorial cooperation program, which is co-funded by the European Regional Development Fund. And we exist since more than 20 years already, and more than 1,000 cities have joined us so far in our networks. Networks are our projects. If you can go on with the slides once more, Stina, that would be great.
Yeah, it doesn't work very well, sorry. So
doesn't work.
I think we stay like this.
Okay. Yeah, so we are supporting networking of cities, and our mission is to promote sustainable urban development through cooperation. So it means that we support networks of cities, so the cooperation between European cities, their local actors and stakeholders, and we put a very strong focus on people and skills. So we are not investing in physical infrastructure, but we are investing in people and skills. That means we do a lot of capacity building activities. We have experts who support our cities and networks. We put a strong focus on method and tools, and we help cities to share knowledge, to exchange good practice and capitalize on it. Our method, if you go to the next slide, please, is to support the networks with a lot of know-how. So we actually help the cities to co-produce local strategies, to actually work together, and every city is making an own plan, an action plan to implement their goals, but they work together in a network with other cities and they co-produce their strategies. Two important aspects of that are that we somehow force the cities to integrate different policies, to take an integrated approach, to take a holistic view, which we already heard a bit earlier today, to take a holistic view and to look especially also across the different levels. We have a vertical and a horizontal integration in our strategies. This is very important because we heard also already that one of the big gaps is to actually align the different policy levels. It's also important to achieve funding for your implementation and for the project to actually get alive. And for that, it's very important to look at the policy goals being in line at all the different levels. That was also what Martino was also pointing at before. We also try to impose a very participatory approach to the cities. A lot of them do that already, but we focus very much on that. And Stina, if you go one more slide further, I want to mention also that URBACT is actually not funding a specific topic, we are very open to very diverse topics. We have a bottom-up approach, so the cities can actually identify their problems, their topic that they want to exchange on. They choose their project theme, and then they go ahead once they're selected for funding. Once they're selected, we make sure as URBACT program that the cities also work on cross-cutting issues, on cross-cutting topics that the EU also has in their priorities. It's about green transition, it's about gender equality and fair cities, it's about digital transition. And I also add here the SDGs, because we have luckily this new network now of the Cities for Sustainable Governance, but also the political framework from the EU and also from the national levels that actually promote the Sustainable Development Goals. If you go to the next slide, I will explain you a little bit what the European and the national approach to this is. And it was actually a question before, I think, from Stefan. What is Europe doing actually in terms of Sustainable Development Goals support? We are in the process of mainstreaming, so to say. I mean, the Sustainable Development Goals are all infiltrating into the European policies. And I think in that sense, the UN already did a good job, and also the European Union, in order to align many of the EU priorities with the SDGs. On urban development, we have this, this process going on as well. All the European member states agreed on the urban agenda for the EU. They especially agreed on the new Leipzig Charter, which is also in line and referring to the Sustainable Development Goals. And these are all policy frameworks that define the European and the national urban development policies, and also the funding that cities receive. So aligning from bottom up the city policies and city strategies with these overall goals will help the cities also to make sure that in the long run, they will also receive the funding that they need to implement their projects.
Margit,
yes?
may I ask to pause here and give the floor to Ville for some closing words, because we're running to the end. And I suggest that maybe we can share the previous network on SDGs and the current one we have heard about with links to, if that's okay. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
And if people have some time to stay on, we can also come back to those practical examples. But thank you very much for introducing, the overall scope of what URBACT is doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margit, and thank you everyone, all the presenters, for their understanding. And let's try to wrap up in plus more also 1 minute, and then we can continue for those who can stay for a bit longer and have a thorough discussion. It's been a huge honor to listen to all these presentations and the facilitator and moderation as well. I have 3 points, and I think it connects to many of the things that said. And to what's behind those 3 points is that whether we are continuing, now I talk about Europe, but I think this applies to other regions and territories as well, that we have had green transition and we have had cohesion policy. Those have been the two big kind of big things. And who knows, after June election, we might have guns and tractors, those two policies, if the populistic regime takes a huge landslide win. Whatever happens, the role of cities will be important and just increase. That is the point. Because the closer you come to cities, the more concrete things get. Whether it's decision-making, implementation, or data. All those 3 that Martino had. Because they answered the first point. We look at why, that is the data, what is happening. Then we have policy making, decision making, what should be done. And then we come to the nuts and bolts of what CSG is, and that is how things are done. You have data, policy building, and governance, and we are focusing on the implementation and the governance. This kind of like this. Also, the second point connects to also several speakers, that CSG doesn't have one goal. It doesn't have one objective that the cities should achieve. There is no one place where we travel. It's about the journey. So we measure the journey traveled, the motivation. So if a city is an athlete, we are not measuring the result that the athlete has, whether it's running or any of the Olympic sports. We are coaching the athlete. We are looking at what Ricardo Rio from Braga coins, what is a good life, quality of life. So how to become a better athlete, how to become a better person, in this case, meaning a city. And this takes us to the important thing of SDGs and to the last point. Sustainable Development Goals are three things. They are for measuring the past. They are understanding what is the present, where we are. Mostly, they should be and could be used for future foresight. So this is what Hélder mentioned about the vision. We need a shared vision. And why this is so important, and I'm ending here, is that connecting to all of the wonderful presentations, our biggest challenge is not that we might disagree or we have a debate. Should it be smart specialization strategies or smart cities or something else? Our biggest challenge is, how do we engage? How do we engage our communities, our citizens, and how do we create that dialogue? Because the biggest challenge is that a lot of people don't care. It's not that they are bad, they don't have time or anything. And this is where I end. And in CSG, as Stina mentioned in the beginning, we believe that the way to bridge the theory and the practice is by storytelling, creating a story of a shared vision, of a shared journey done together. I'm very humble thanks to all of the participants and all of the great speakers. Stina, I end here.
Thank you very much. And yeah, apologies. I wanted to just make sure that we could close the circle. But since some people are still here, thank you very much from my behalf as well. And I would like to then maybe hand back the word to Margit, maybe not to show the whole presentation, but I know you had also some more things to say, potentially on the cohesion policy and the upcoming activities that URBACT is launching, because this is an opportunity to make those links that we're talking about. I think for the Global Goals for Cities network, there's a lot of materials to read online, but yes, and sorry about the disruption.
Okay, no problem. Thanks a lot. And thank you, especially also to Ville for wrapping it up so nicely. Indeed, maybe I can just add 2 points that I wanted to mention at the end of my presentation. There are links in the presentation to the concrete projects that we did in the past, also together with CMR, actually, the Council of European Municipalities and Regions. We worked very much together to implement the Sustainable Development Goals also in the tools that we're both using, the reference framework for sustainable cities, and also the toolbox that was developed by the previous network. And now, so to say, your network is kind of our flagship on Sustainable Development Goals implementation, and especially this governance aspect. We are trying to promote those goals further. And if other cities are interested and want to join us, want to join URBACT and also this journey that Ville was just mentioning, please go to our website and look at the calls that we are publishing. At the moment, we have a call open for good practice. So maybe there is other examples that you might want to share and maybe put forward to be implemented and to be transferred in other European cities. And another little hint maybe to URBACT, we are currently also having a consultation on the city's needs, an online survey that we're running on behalf of the European Commission. And if you want to further promote the Sustainable Development Goals, maybe it's also a good idea to put that into our survey, because we're going to make a report out of that and submit this directly to the European Commission in order to make the city's voice heard for the future cohesion policy. So please make use of this opportunity and raise the voice for the SDGs so that we can further work on it together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that these are excellent opportunities. Like you said, it's also up to us to be proactive on these chances and take every opportunity to put this message in, because what we have heard today, and you mentioned a bit also on the EU being very active on some aspect, we still want a lot more from this network in terms of support from the European Union to work with holistic sustainability. So
and to
yeah,
emphasize to what Margit said, URBACT has been, I wrote it to the chat that URBACT has been an excellent vehicle and structure for us. So we warmly recommend to apply to these resources and instruments. It's been very good.
Thank you.
so with that, and with 6 minutes delay, thank you again for joining and for staying with us this extra time. Thank you, Lenka, Vasilis, Hélder, also for your testimonials, and big applause to all. And we will see each other soon. You will see each other in Mannheim for our high-level discussions where we will take these topics forward. So really, thank you for today, for our first webinar.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Huge privilege.
Thank you all.
See you.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Guys.